Porsha Williams coming back to Real Housewives of Atlanta? That's false. But Porsha Guobadia is in the building. See y'all. Mwah.
Marriage and then when you get married, you get married to any old fucking body so you could, like Porsha. Like, that shit is not a flex to me. That motherfucking nigga is a scammer. Simon, whatever his last name is, if his name is even Simon.
Y'all, it seems like Porsha Williams is about to lose her glamorous, glittery life as her husband, Simon Guobadia, is exposed as a thieving, lying Nigerian scammer, and she is not taking it well. Word on the street is Porsha is spiraling because she thought she had the entire situation under control, but it turns out she underestimated just how long the arm of the law is. And it seems like she is truly done for this time because some of her assets, especially the ones Simon gave her or any property they own jointly, may be confiscated by the government because, surprise, surprise, he's not the multimillionaire he has been parading himself as. Chile. This Simon Guobadia situation is so messy, and you just have to wonder how Porsha got herself in this mess in the first place. Well, it seems like Porsha has been desperate to get hooked with a rich man for so long that she doesn't even care where the man's money comes from as far as he's willing to fund her lifestyle. If y'all recall, in season 11 of The Real Housewives of Atlanta, we got a glimpse of just how desperate Porsha was for her man, Dennis McKinley, to put a ring on it, so much that she was actively trying to hide her crazy so that she wouldn't scare Dennis away. When Porsha told the other housewives how much she wanted Dennis to propose, Kandi called her out for being so thirsty, telling her to allow things to progress more organically, if you will. Viewers seemed to agree with Kandi at the time, and many took to Twitter to tell her to slow her roll. One said, "I'm sorry, but I don't appreciate a woman having to convince their man to propose. If he wants to marry you, he will. Relax, Porsha. You're looking real desperate, boo-boo." Then this person said, "Porsha just said she doesn't ask questions because ignorance is bliss," out loud, about a man she's baiting to propose to her. Like marriage. Lucky for Porsha, Dennis did eventually propose to Porsha, but of course, that didn't go anywhere because when one partner is more desperate to be in the relationship than the other person, it's always a recipe for disaster. They broke off their engagement because Dennis was cheating on Porsha, and soon enough, Porsha moved on to her next man, Simon Guobadia. This time, Porsha was so desperate for that wife tag that she didn't even mind sneaking behind her friend to be with her man on the low. And before you start trying to connect the dots, remember that Simon was married to Porsha's co-star on RHOA, Falynn Guobadia. Simon and Falynn split in April 2021 after 2 years of marriage, and just 1 month later, Simon was engaged to Porsha. They tried to play the whole "we found love in a hopeless place" card at the time, but it later came out that they had been messing around long before Falynn and Simon finalized their divorce. What's crazy is that Porsha was not the only one Simon cheated on Falynn with. Around the time Porsha and Simon announced their engagement, a woman named Jessica Harris revealed to the Jasmine brand that she had also allegedly had a thing with Simon since March 2021. And by the looks of it, this thing they had was serious because Jessica said through multiple text messages, Simon told her he wanted to get to know her better and apparently made her believe he would make things official after he finalized his divorce with Falynn. But to her greatest surprise, Simon left her hanging, and the next thing she knew, she was seeing the announcement of Simon and Porsha's engagement. So it's like, this man is a walking beige flag, so how did Porsha miss all the signs? Well, some people are saying Porsha didn't exactly miss the red flags. She just dyed them green because she is on another level of delulu. My good sis did what she had to do to bag her a Nigerian prince who put a big rock on her finger and gave her a lavish Nigerian wedding, complete with the elaborate attires and sparkling sparkles. And boy, is she regretting those choices now. Because it turns out her Nigerian prince is not a prince at all. He's just a seasoned thief and scammer, and it seems like Simon's crimes might be finally catching up with him, and he is facing deportation. Yes, you heard that right. So, according to court documents, Simon's journey to fraud started in 1982 when he entered the US on a 6-month visitor visa and refused to leave once his visa expired. He stayed till 1985 when he married his first wife in an attempt to gain citizenship through an adjustment of status application, which was, of course, denied. The wife in question claimed the marriage was a sham, and they neither lived together nor was it ever consummated. Simon left the US voluntarily and then returned in 1986 on another 6-month visitor visa. This time, though, he refused to leave, and your man has stayed booked and busy since then. First, it was the bank and credit fraud he pleaded guilty to in 1987, which is a felony offense. Then, in 1989, he was arrested for unauthorized use of a vehicle, and in 1990, he was arrested again for fraud. In 1991, Simon was accused of committing committing credit card fraud, another felony. This time, the government had had enough, and they ordered Simon to be deported, and in 1992, Simon was deported and physically removed from the U.S. Now, it's important to know that in 1988, Simon had started the application process for temporary residency under the Special Agricultural Worker Program. However, he used a fake identity for this application, and he conveniently left out his criminal history. When his SAW application was approved, with these misrepresentations and omissions, Simon was granted temporary residency. As part of SAW immigration benefits, Simon's temporary resident status was automatically converted to permanent resident status following the waiting period. However, by the time his permanent residency card was ready, he had already been deported under his other identity. But out of sheer, I don't know whether to call it stubbornness or crookedness, Simon scammed his way back into the US. Obviously, by this time, immigration authorities already had him on their radar, so you would think this guy would lay low, you know, being an illegal immigrant and all that. But in 2016, Simon had the audacity to apply for naturalization under his fake identity, but of course, it was denied because his temporary resident status was unlawfully granted. In 2022, Simeon tried his luck at naturalization again, but he was denied again because he had not been lawfully admitted for permanent residence. They also said Simon was not eligible because he had lied on his application and deliberately withheld relevant information from authorities, which was all true. Tell me why this man went ahead to file a complaint in 2023, asking the court to vacate the denial. In response, USCIS told the court that Simon couldn't be allowed to proceed with his naturalization application because he applied for SAW benefits under a different identity, misrepresented his marital status, improperly answered no to the question of whether he had any prior arrests or convictions, incorrectly answered no to the question about whether there was any factual basis that made his application inadmissible, given his criminal history, misstated the date of his last entry into the United States. So everything about his application was fraudulent. However, Simon's defense was not to deny all these allegations. No, he didn't deny that he lied on his application or had not been an upstanding resident. His defense was that Immigration Services has not raised any concerns about petitioner's permanent resident status for 3 decades. So if they didn't have an issue, then why do they have an issue now? Then he said he should not be made to bear the burden of the government's mistakes. Basically, he was like, y'all didn't do your job all this while, so it's your fault I'm here, and that's not my problem. However, court documents say the court found Simon's argument unpersuasive and that he has failed to prove that he meets all the requirements for naturalization. So his case was dismissed as of January 11th, 2024, and given how shady he has been throughout the process of over 2 decades, Simon is likely to be deported again. What's crazy is that this isn't even the end of Simon's shenanigans. Allegedly, he paid a fake publicity firm to publish his net worth as $40 million as if they verified it by looking at his financial records. Meanwhile, they'll publish anything you ask them to as long as you pay them. There have also been rumors that Simon's business website is an ordinary template that does not provide any real information about what he actually does for a living. On top of that, Simon allegedly owed a lot in IRS back taxes, and he has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy multiple times, including once in 2014 when his businesses went under for $3.8 million. And they're saying he might be on his way to filing for another Chapter 11 bankruptcy because he has debts piled up to the sky. Girl, this man allegedly has 21 liens, 9 judgments, and 2 loans from PNC Bank for his 2 Rolls Royces. So with all of this unraveling before her eyes, sources close to Porsha say she is not having a good time and she is scrambling to cover her behind because she knows Simon is about to be investigated. So that's why Miss Ma'am is trying to get her paper up by joining Roe for the new season, because if Simon is investigated, best believe Uncle Sam will collect all his money and property. However, word on the street is that while Porsha is having a meltdown, Simon is not even bothered. I mean, he has taken to his Instagram to assure us that he's just fine and dandy. So y'all, let me know what you think about this whole fiasco in the comments below. And since you're here, check out this next video before you go.